Alright, hopefully one final cut. I feel like the first cut was just... Well, first cut I just messed up, and then second cut I feel like the reviews were like, like too tongue-tied kind of thing. Like where I wasn't getting the point out across, just messing up words kind of thing. And that was just like, I couldn't edit that. Like there's no way, unless I edited this content into that old content, there was no way I could just be like, oh, well, you edited it. That's a one exception to that rule. But this is 6 comic reviews, or reviewing 6 comics, but 3 of them are manga, and then of course the first 3 will be mainstream comics. Let's go with it. I should have had these exactly way. I should have had stacks. So I have that dead air there. Astonishing X-Men Volume 2 is the complete collection. This rounds out Joss Whedon's and John Cassaday's run on Astonishing X-Men. I did pick a pretty good time when I read Volume 1. I believe I picked the best time to read it because it was right after John Cassaday's unfortunate passing. So it was kind of like the best commemorative way was to finally read his run on X-Men. They did the artwork for it, but because usually when you say like this person's run X-Men, you usually talk about their writing. But this one I thought was a much better than the first complete collection, the first half of this series. The first half I felt like the pacing was off, but here it's on and doesn't stop. Like this is really damn good stuff, and surprisingly enough, like it kind of does break new ground here and there, introducing certain elements that I obviously didn't expect, and also thought like if anything this had never been done before. Now X-Men, I have not read a whole lot of X-Men books. In fact, one X-Men book that I did not finish was the Brood Saga. I was just sick of the way that Chris Claremont writes the X-Men. Now that was later on. For like earlier on, like that first Epic collection is one of my most prized possessions, having it on the Kindle, because that was really damn good. I really do like the first 2 years, but I think Chris Claremont and Stan Lee attended the same school of adding a bunch of dialogue onto the page. I was kind of sick of that. A good example is so far that Hercules Prince of Power, well, sometimes dialogue is a bit heavy. It's the perfect amount for what a comic should have been back then, and it came out the same year as Brood Saga, 1982. I understand comics back then are going to have more dialogue and more narration, and more narration, and more expository dialogue than this will. This came out in the early 2000s, so I understand that they're going to be different. But for whatever reason, that was like too much. But not every Chris Claremont X-Men book is like that. I feel like, if anything, the early years were where he had it the most, like, the best, kind of like spaced out, whatever, how you would say that. And obviously not discounting his run. I think, if anything, I do have to go in order, so I get used to it as it goes along, I guess you could say. But, I just kind of put it away. I was like, I'm not reading the whole entire thing. I returned it. But this one is a really damn good X-Men book. And this is probably a good example of, like, if you wanted to ask me, because based off what I said about Chris Claremont's X-Men, like, well, what do you like about X-Men? Well, it's this. Everything in this is what I like for my X-Men books. I'm not too picky. Gotham City Sirens is a good example of me thinking a whole entire series is as good as one volume. Like I treat one volume as so damn good that automatically I assume the whole whole entire series is just as good because of that second half. And like thinking on it retrospectively, I think that the whole entire series is really damn good. But even when I finished this, it wasn't too long after I got book 1. I think what is kind of in retrospect, thinking of it months later. Like, yeah, Paul Dini, he did Gotham City Sirens, one of the most criminally underrated comics of all time, comic runs of all time. It's more, what I liked is more in this volume than in the previous volume. Still damn good previous volume. I still think that buying that omnibus is worth every penny, but it does, if you feel like it's getting slow after that first 12 issues or so, it gets really damn good. Doesn't stop at the 24th issue. I can't imagine you think it's super slow and you give up on it. I wouldn't have done that. Went that far. But it was that kind of first 16. It was 26 issues. Not 16. 26 issues. But again, I do remember liking that first 12 issues. I obviously overlooked enough to want to get Volume 2. And I remember I was reading it around the time that I was reading that Gotham City Garage book. It was kind of funny. It was 2 Gotham City books. With the first 2 words of title were Gotham City. But so yeah, I liked the first volume of this enough to want to get Volume 2. And I remember really liking it, and it's like, oh my god, this is really damn good. I almost wanted to buy Volume 2 right after, read it back to back. So obviously I liked it enough the first time I read it. I think it was just 2 months later, thinking of how like really fast paced it gets as it goes along. Like, one of these issues was like, I was legitimately shocked when it ended. I was like, oh my god, I felt like I just started the book. That's how fast paced it was, in a good way, of course. And then that first volume is a lot, it's just more the way that comics were written back then, where they weren't like, that X-Men 1982 book where it's that slow, that much dialogue, but it was more dialogue heavy than action heavy. And I think I forgot that that's not all of what, that was part of it, what Gotham City Sirens was that slower, more dialogue heavy, story based, less action, But even then, like, I would say, like, that's not an accurate description of the first complete collection. It's just that it was a lot less fast-paced than it was here. And I just thought that the whole time it was that. Now, on a third reread, and knowing this now, I think I will like the whole entire series just as much as I did the first time. It's just kind of thinking that it was like this, basically. But still good. This if you really thought that the Gotham City Sirens was really slow, read this, and you'll change your mind. Dark Knights of Steel, like the first volume, I really like the series. I think it's a good, it's DC's answer to whether or not they can put the DC heroes in a fantasy setting and make it, not be ludicrous and ridiculous. And it is. It's none of those. It's actually really damn interesting, and I do want more from this series. We are getting more, and I'm glad I finally got to finish off this series. I had the first 6 issues or so in floppy form, but then I read the library, and the comic shop didn't have the next few issues. That's a big reason why I stopped getting floppies, and of course buying books off Amazon. But anyways, but mostly it's because of that. And the problem with those Volume 2s, especially when I already did a Volume 1 review, right before this one was a review of Volume 1, is most of the time my overall opinion does not change. Vinland Saga Book 2, like with Volume 1, I really like the series. I will reiterate what I like about the series, and it does not feel... Like, all the tropes of manga I don't like are not present here. I can actually tell what's going on in the story. It's not so fast-paced that it's like, it loses me. It's the right amount of pacing, the setting that I really like, and I think I'm just gonna check out more fantasy mangas. This is really damn good. And it's like Vikings, it's really interesting. I think it is based off a true story. I could be wrong, but really solid stuff. And yeah, sometimes I will lose the plot. Like, I don't exactly know where we are at this point in time, but I'll read up and I'm like, okay, that's right too. And it'll actually my mind will actually start kicking in. Like, no, this is what happened last issue. That's right too. That's where this character is. So as it's been happening, like that's really damn good for me, because I feel like if you told me what happened in the last issue of X-Men, I'd be like, well, they were on the X-Jet and they were flying to Krakoa, and their plane got shot down, and they got off it, and then they defeated characters, and there's a whole big thing in between. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, And that's why I've been watching Comic Pop with the books that I read. Like, for example, I did Astonishing X-Men, and they would mention something that happened, and it was the issue I just read not too long ago, and I'd be like, I forgot about that. So that's why, and it's just the way my mind works. But thankfully it's nothing too grandiose. Like, I don't forget a character death or anything like that. But it's small little details here and there. Some of them are bigger than others sometimes. Some of them really, really big things, but nothing too major. I think the biggest thing was a bit of dialogue that you'd think I remember, but I didn't. That was the biggest I can remember off the top of my head recently. But Vinland Saga Book 2, really outstanding stuff. I am eager to check out Volume 3. kind of been nice. I got to read Vinland Saga in the deluxe edition format, like I finally got to do with Berserk. Now, for the longest time, I did not think my local library had the deluxe editions. I think what I may have done is I accidentally put in Volume 1, didn't think, on their old system, not thinking their new system had it, and the only library that has it is just one library. But really solid stuff. Like, this is, I understand why people like Berserk so much, and it's really damn solid. Like, it's honestly nothing more that can be said. It's just as good as people are saying it is, and I'm eager to check out Volume 2. And it ends on a pretty big cliffhanger, and I almost want to check out Volume 2 the next time I get books from the library. However, this is a thick book, and I'll probably just be fine with waiting. The more I remember how long it was. And finally, Alita Battle Angel Volume 2 Complete Collection. Somehow this overall review was better, but right now we're only at 11 minutes. Right now, it's shorter than the other video was. But this one, like a Volume 1, really solid stuff. There's a reason why this was for the longest time my favorite manga. I would almost go so far as to say Berserk is. Not much for content, and not much of a contest there, because again, I don't really read a whole lot of manga. But I would say that that's so far my favorite is. I don't think I've ever finished a manga, like a manga series. And they're all like ongoing. Like One Punch Man, I was always super surprised to find out it was still going. I just assumed it ended. I don't know why, but I believe Battle Angel Alita is done. But I vaguely remember hearing Near My Condition was doing his monthly budget meeting. The comics coming out that month, and he had mentioned there was another volume of Battle Angel Alita coming out. I don't know. That's how much I don't want to say don't care about manga, but don't care about manga is that I don't even know if any of these series are still going. I know Berserk is. I don't know about Vinland Saga, and of course don't know about Battle Angel Alita, like I just said. But the ones I've read before, One Punch Man I really liked. No manga I absolutely hated. It was kind of too much. It felt too similar, that kind of the way that the book felt in tone felt too similar. Kind of like how you'll read the Marvel movies. Kind of felt a bit formulaic. Not as formulaic as the MCU, mind you, but that same kind of feeling where I felt like every book was written by the same writer and drawn by the same guy. But now I don't feel that way. Now I don't, not at all. But this, really damn solid stuff. I don't know when I'll check out the movie. Part of me wants to wait until I'm done with the deluxe editions. Those at least I know are done at 6 or 7 volumes. Maybe after then I'll check out the movie, but I mean, I have 5 movies here that I've had since for a long ass time, and I have yet to watch any of them because I'm that far behind on watching movies. So I don't know if I'd even get around to it. I used to be good at it though. I think it's just because I kind of get too tired at the end of the day, and then just reading a lot, and by the time I'm done reading, I'm too exhausted to want to put in a movie. Last night was different, but that was not one of the movies I checked out from the library. Just not the worst thing though. It was Brave. I finally got to watch that again. Started watching as a fan with that Blu-ray. The speakers fritzed out again, so they watched downstairs, and they watched Boss Baby. I think that's literally what they watched, and I was like, I'm gonna watch something better. I actually like Brave. I think it's a criminally underrated Pixar movie. All the comments gonna be about that now. I feel like that's how it is. I remember it was my complete June haul, and in reference to Silver Coin, I said, oh, there was another book that came out called Razor Blades, and the only comment on that video was about Razor Blades. I don't mind that at all. I'm happy to get at least one comment. I was like, didn't say anything within the other books. Is that alright? No, nothing against the guy, of course. He's a longtime fan of the channel, and I always look forward to his comments, because sometimes he'll actually go in depth. He'll be like, oh, yeah, this book is really good, and yada yada yada. I'd be surprised he actually read the book that I'd shown off. One of them was Alex plus Ada. That might just be the next book I read. The personal collection, that thing. I take the books on my personal collection and read them. I was gonna do that, or you'll see. I'll be next time. But that is that. Now, there is one book that I did not finish, and that was a Hercules book. The reason why I didn't finish it, obviously, and the reason why I didn't just wait till I finished Hercules is because I'm going to do another post-credit scene review, comic reviews. Because there was one outstanding book that was supposed to come in for this stack, or in the middle of the stack, but it came out at the ass end. So I'm going to take one more week so I can finish, so I can read that book. And then I put other two books in my personal collection, both are rereads. And then I'll finish up Hercules, and that'll be... So when I finish that'll be like, I would say, like Thursday, Friday. And then we have, actually, Friday is one of them's 5-issue series. I'll probably read one per day. But anyways, and then we have that one last... Actually, I didn't show it off anyways, so... We have an OGN that was just, I knew would be too much to read. But that to say is that 15 and a half minutes, not bad.